Hey everybody, I'm making 3 index cards on cardboard today. I really loved the process last time and I thought I'm going to do this again. I have a piece of cardboard from a packaging here and I'm covering this with the Tombow glue stick, and now I'm placing the index cards on top of this. I'm going to speed up this process a little bit now because it takes a while, as I also cover the complete thing with a layer of clear gesso. It's easier to do this as a whole before cutting the cards apart. So I'm covering this with a layer of clear gesso. So the cards are primed for some brushes I want to use to bring in color. I'm using the Liquitex clear gesso. I really like it because it comes out of the bottle compared to the PBO, which is in a big tin, and it's really hard to open every time, and so I prefer this one. I'm cutting the cards apart once they are dry, and here I'm back with the dry cards mounted on cardboard, and I'm going to emboss some stamped images from our vintage stuff stamp set. It's a lovely vintage flower set for all kinds of vintage projects, I would say. I also like those to make collage paper. And here I'm using white embossing powder, and I have used the Versamark ink pad. I'm going to do this with 3 different stamps to all those cards. I'm speeding this up as well because otherwise the video would be quite long and that process is not very interesting, and you also cannot see very much because everything is white at the moment. The embossing will be a resist against any watercolors that will come on top. And as I said, I'm going to use Brusho powders today. You can use any kind of other pigment powders to create a similar effect. And even if you have no pigment powders, you can use the same technique with watercolors. Here you see me melting the embossing powder with my heat gun. In my next step, I'm going to do some more background stamping with color, and I'm using StazOn inks here, and that's the brown. I'm not sure which brown it is exactly. I believe you can see it, but my screen is quite small when I do the voiceover, so I cannot read what's on the lid. And I'm using text stamps from the same stamp set as the flowers. And I just add that to the cards to bring in more interest and texture. I'm switching to another stamp to bring in different elements, which I think makes it more interesting. This one is the postcard stamp from our Mix It Up 6 stamp set, and I just lay this onto my desk and then ink it up and press the cards onto the stamp, and I accidentally stamped over the flower, and as it stays on, it will not the flower will not resist the ink, so I quickly tried to remove it from that embossed flower. It would have been better to do that stamping before I did the embossing, but I did not think about this previously. I just decided after I did the embossing that I'd like to have some of these vintagey textures on the background. Now it's time to go in with the Brusho powders. I picked an orange and a purple color, and I spritz the card with water and then sprinkle in the Brushos. I'm adding more water as I go, and I also use a brush to move the pigments around in some areas. When there is too much water on the cards, I soak the over amount up with a dry paper towel. So just that the Brusho ink does not stay on the embossed areas. I try to get them off carefully so I don't remove too much of the color. This card is quite light in the middle, and I decided to bring in a little bit more of that purple color so the flower does pop up more from the background. I'm setting this card aside to dry, and I'm going to start with the next one. And I do everything in a similar way. I'm wetting the background, sprinkling the brushes onto it, and then I move the pigments around and see where they are going and how I like it. And here I'm creating the last card of those three, and I'm using the same colors, so everything looks cohesive. While my Brusho cards are drying, I'm preparing some focal images. I wanted to use the butterflies from our Grungy Butterflies stamp set on the cards, and I have stamped them with a black already, and I believe I used the VersaFine Clear ink, and here you saw me coloring in the butterflies quickly with the Brushos. I used just the orange, and that's it. I just let them bleed and let them sit until they were dry. And here I'm dipping in the butterflies into the embossing ink. I want to give them a coat of clear embossing powder to make them stand out more on these cards. And here I'm melting the powder with my heat gun. I'm going to do the same process to the other two butterflies, but I don't record it on camera because it's just the same process. I'm not sure if you can see this, but the butterflies are quite pretty with that glossy shimmer. And I'm now going to adhere them to my cards as a focal image. I'm using some liquid glue to adhere the butterflies, and I have also stamped some sentiments for the cards, and I'm going to adhere those as well. I've used some design paper for the sentiments, which was a little bit vintagey color-wise, so everything goes well together. I'm going to link up all the stamp sets I've been using and all the products I've been using in the video description. And of course, as always, you will find photos of the cards over on my website. And I will link the blog post also in the video description. Here are also some photos of the finished cards. I hope you enjoyed the little video and the inspiration, and I wish you a lovely weekend. Until next time, bye.